Alright, number 12A, Pennsylvania Railroad, Section 9, FF3, or so Fairbanks Morse Company, Freight, 3 unit. General Locomotive, Fairbanks Morse Company, 600 horsepower, 17 to 70 gear ratio, 68 miles an hour, 2 A units, it's 1B unit, 2 trucks per unit, 2 axle per truck, 3 track motor per truck, traction motors per truck, 2 the wheel diameter is 42 inch, general size 6.5 by 12 inch, brakes schedule, Westinghouse 24RL, maximum overload dimensions, A. 15 foot 3 inches, 10 foot 6.25 inch width, 64 foot 10 inches length, 335,160 pounds, total weight 245,720 pounds weight on the drivers, and the B unit 15 foot in length, 10 foot 6.25 inch in width, 64 foot 10 inches in length, 354,100 pounds, and total weight 245,140 pounds on the weight of the drivers. Fuel capacity is 1650 for both, and cubic feet is 20 for the cubic feet for the A, 40 cubic feet for B. All right, the General Data diesel engine, make model of the FM380D818, and the horsepower governed RPM at the 2,000 horsepower at 850 RPMs. Type inline opposed piston 2-cycle number, cylinders 10, the 8 by 1/8 of an inch, 10 inch by 10 inch 3, and 300 RPM idle. Firing order 1-873594210-6. Number of engines per unit 1. Lubricating oil capacity 360 gallons. Cooling water capacity each engine 367 gallons. The engine used the class of locomotive with the 10-cylinder inline with 2-cycle with the opposed piston type. The engine with the no-cylinder head for the air of the fuel air from the specially designed blower introduced with the cylinder compressed with the bleed between the two pistons which work vertically toward each of the cylinder blower mounted onto the engine with the driven with the upper crankshaft through the flexible gear drive. The upper lower of the piston with the drive separately with the crankshaft with the intercooled with the vertical gear drive incorporated with the flexible coupling of the cooling spring design. The cycle of the cylinder of the engine is similar to the described in section 3 of the class EP3 with this exam. There are no valve with the fresh air with emitted with the cylinder, the exhaust gas, or expelled with the piston, uncovered the covering of the inlet with the exhaust portion near the upper and lower ends of the respectively of the cylinder. The main generator, auxiliary generator, the fan, blower generator, the exciter are mounted on the rear end of the engine. The governor, water pumps, and lubricating oil pump are mounted at the front end of the engine. The lights, those cylinders are arranged vertically in line with the right and the left side of the engine, designated with the right and left of the hands, respectively facing the rear end of the engine. The cylinders are numbered from the front to the rear, beginning with the 1 at the front end and the end with the 10 at the rear. The direction of the rotating lower crankshaft with the counterclockwise when they're facing the rear end of the diesel engine. The diesel engine governor control. The electrical hydraulic governor is the engine located within the left side of the engine. The front end identically to operate with the same as the governor described in section 5 of the class AP3. The governor oil pump is part of the motor alternating pump set located within the floor of the front end of the engine. The tachometer generator is mounted on the diesel engine. Ahead of the governor, the various throttle levers corresponding to the diesel engine RPM with the maximum horsepower as follows. Idle 300 RPMs is 0 horsepower 1 and 300 1 throttle lever 1. 300 RPM 7 and 4 horsepower. 2 375 RPMs 270 horsepower. 3 450 RPMs 475 horsepower. 5 600 RPMs 1050 horsepower. 675 RPMs at 1350 and 13.5 750 RPMs at 1660 and 850 RPMs at 2000. The overspeed stop distance of the engine central figure operated latch mounted with the rear with the camshaft at the front end of the engine window. The engine speeds reach with the 935 to 950 RPM with the trip of the fuel force of the plunger against the fuel cutoff lever, the mounting with the fuel rack with the no injection position stop of the diesel engine. Fuel cutoff lever is actuated upon the hand operated emergency stop of the push button with the pushing button that also stop the engine described above. The pushing engine the engine has been stopped. The emergency stop button must be by the overspeed stop that cannot be started again until the reset lever has been manually operated. The emergency stop button and the reset lever are both located on the left front end of the engine. Diesel engine cooling system. The cooling system of the diesel engine with several units of the locomotive they are similar to each other except for the cab heater. They're incorporated with the cooling system of the engine on a unit. The cooling water system is made with the unit up to the two intercooler connected to the system. One system is used for the purpose of the cooling of the diesel engine lubricating system, and the other is the system is used for the cooling of the diesel engine. Two central figure water pumps are located in the front end of the engine. One pump that draws the water for the cooling water tank located on the floor of the right end of the unit that circulates through the lubricating oil heat exchanger lubricator located over the water tank. After leaving the heat exchanger, the water flows through the two rear radiators back to the tank. The other pump draws the water for the cooling water tank locomotive located on the floor at the level left the rear end of the unit with the pumps into the casing of the two exhaust elbows into the engine. After circulating through the engine, the water flows out of the water head over in the four front radiators from the drains back into the water tank. The radiators are arranged in two banks with three sections each, but they're located with the side walls of the unit of the rear of the tank, normally rear of the truck. Normally, the radiators are full water, but however, the severely cold weather and cooling system should be operated with low-level drain valve that is located near the edge of the cooling water tank of the drain line from the pipe between the opening of the entering the engine cooling water of the tank of the expansion tank to obtain the low-level value should be open when the engine shut down with closed after the flow of the water stops. Both cooling the water tanks are vented into the expansion tank, which is located over the overhead at the rear end of the unit. The cooling water temperature may be checked on the dial type of the gauge located with the outlet pipe with the engine water head at the right end of the front end of the engine. An operating temperature of 142 degrees and 185 degrees Fahrenheit should be maintained. The shutters that control and cooling water temperature are open with closed, and servo motors operated by oil pressure through the diesel engine lubricating oil system. The servo motors are provided with the two operating engine cooling water radiator shutter sections, one on each side of the unit. The third operator thoroughly linkage for the rear heat exchanger water radiator shutter on both sides of the unit. Each servo motor with the control with the pilot valve with the operated with a thermostatic device. The two sides of the servo motor with the thermostat with the inserted with the diesel engine cooling water system, and for the rear servo meter the outlet water connection of the heater exchange. Two electrically driven radiator fans located above them between the radiator draw air through the radiator for the dissipating of the heat from the cooling water of the atmosphere. The motor driven fan receive the power from the fan of the blower generator. The fan of the motors are started automatically with a fan control switch coupled to the rear shutter of the servo meter with the servo meter from the left side of the unit with either the shutter Other meter approximately one half open with the cam and the control switch can close at the slow speed with the contacts with the starts the fan and series which either the shutter approaches the full open position. The second cam and the control switch operates for the high speed with the controls the switch with the fan motor then connected to in parallel with the operating with the high speed. The speed of the radiator fans may be further controlled with the operating with on the switch over the compartment of the controls panel. The switch has two positions marked fast and slow. Both of these speeds automatic control will be lower than the switch is in the slow position. The switch should normally be kept in slow position when outside temperature is below 75 degrees to 80 degrees Fahrenheit. To operate the shutters manually, the pin connection at the servo meter must be removed with the shutters in position by hand. Engine water temperature switch located with the engine control panel is set at 200 degrees Fahrenheit. Operates the reduced load on the engine of 25% to light with the hot engine lights. Alarm bell rings the alarm bell through the locomotive. The cooling system can be filled with a filler nozzle located on each side of the unit with the front of the wheel with the rear of the truck. The water should be run into the system until it runs out with the opposite filler pipe. The water level and the cooling system is indicated with the glass water gauge, one located with the expansion type, one on the engine with the cooling water tank. The water should be shown in the expansion tank of the cool gauge glasses at all times unless the system is being operated at low level during the cold weather. When operating at low level with the engine running, the water should be run in the gauge glass on the engine cooling water tank above the red mark painted on the tank at the back of the glass. Cab heaters of the A unit are supplied with the hot water from the engine cooling system and provided with the common inlet and the outlet valve with the both heaters, the valves being located in the nose of the unit in front of the fireman's position. If the locomotive is to be left standing, the diesel engine is shut down, when the danger of freezing of the standby heaters may be used as all water drained from the system. Alright, the standby heater suitability pipe of the cooling water system, the heat circulate for the engine cooling water, electrically driven with the central fuel pump to circulate for the cool water through the heater fuel oil level of the main fuel supply tank of the head with the separate electrical driven fuel pump to burn with the firebox for the heater, the piping inducing the valve with the water line with the heater, which must be open with the circulate with the water through the heater as the second valve located near the engine for the A units are provided with supply hot water with the cab heater when the engine is in shutdown. A small line with the 1/4 inch valve is provided for the heat with the delivery pipe with the toilet water tank heating cooling. To start the standby heater, open the water circulation valve described in the preceding paragraph. Close both standby heater circuit breakers and mark the position positive and negative on the control panel near your heater. Check the manual fuel bypass valve is fully closed. Push the start button on the control box near the heater. The circulation pump should be start, and the fuel pump should start, and then the fire should light. To open the standby heater, open the circuit breakers, close the water circulation valve, the train engine cooling system, open all the drain valves of the water piping system, remove the lower drain plug with the both exhaust manifold, water jackets adjacent, number 10 cylinder 2, drain plugs the underside of the both the exhaust L, water of the jackets 2, the drain plug on the water inlet and it had nameplate in 1, drain the plugs on both of each water pump in 2, drain plug in the bottom of the oil cooler head 1. Empty the water treatment device, drain the toilet water cap, drain the cab heaters, drain diesel engine diesel engine lubricating oil system. Lubricating oil system for the diesel engine on several of the units of the locomotives are similar to each other. Locomotive oil supply with the carrier with the crankcase for the engine, the bayonet type of the oil level gauge located on the left side of the diesel engine shows the level of the lubricating oil in the crankcase. If the engine is running with it when the oil is checked read the side of the bayonet gauge from the reading marked engine running. The gauge should show between the fuel system and add oil. If the engine is stopped, then read the side of the bayonet gauge marked with the engine stop. When the engine is first filled with the gauge, it should show oil change with new fill with the both. But after the engine has been run or shut down, the gauge should show between the full engine and add oil. After the difference in the oil level when the engine has been run and shut down is due to some of the oil being trapped in the lines and filter and heat exchange. Oil may be added to the system by removing the cover of the oil filter backs located adjacent to the bayonet gauge, pouring in the required amount. The lubricating oil pump located in the front end of the engine draws the oil of the crankcase through the suction line with the pumps. The major portion through the heat exchanger. The remaining portion is bypassed through the oil filter located to the rear of the heater exchange. The passing through the heater exchange and the filter oil is circulated through the engine and then returned to the crankcase. The heater exchange provides the transfer of the heat with the lubricating oil with the cool water. Therefore, there is a definite relationship between lubricating oil temperature, oil cooling water temperature. If the pressure drops through the filter heat exchange exceeds 27 pounds, the oil will be bypassed directly through the engine through the spring-loaded relief valve. The oil pressure engine oil header is maintained with a maximum of 70 pounds. The regulating valve located in the pump discharge of the pressure system may come successful. This valve will also cause the oil to be returned directly to the crankcase. A dial type of gauge located in the engine control panel shows the lubricating oil pressure to the engine oil header. Normally, lubrication oil pressure throttle over the 8th position, 20 to 35 pounds idling speed, but the lubricating oil pressure should be above the 8 pounds. The lubricating oil pressure switch with the marked ops is connected with the upper lubrication oil header with the right end. Front end of the engine will shut down. The engine oil pressure drops to 5 pounds. The alarm bells will sound. The oil pressure lights will light and will turn light throughout the locomotive. An oil temperature switch located by the engine control panel is set at 250 degrees Fahrenheit. The operates with the reduced load of the engine 25%. The hot engine lights the ringing of the alarm bells throughout the locomotive. The temperature of the lubricating oil may be checked on the dial type of the gauge located on the return line from the heat exchanger, all right from the end of the engine. Alright, your diesel engine fuel oil system. Fuel oil system for the diesel engine are several units of the locomotive are similar to each other. The fuel supply tank is mounted under each of the unit of the locomotive may be filled from either side of the tight glass gauge provided on each side of the unit adjacent to the filler opening to indicate the upper level of the tank. The type fuel gauge is located on the left side of the engine room. The door of the floor gives the access to the gauge. The gauge is calibrated with the proportionate mark of the empty room, empty to full. Fuel transfer pump mounted with the motor driven alternator pump set that draws with the fuel from the fuel supply tank through a suction line and strainer delivered in through the discharge filter to the fuel oil header passing around the engine. The header connects the engine to each of the fuel injection pump. The fuel oil pressure is controlled by the 2 pressure relief valves, one located with the discharge line with the fuel transfer pump set approximately 35 pounds, one located on the return end of the fuel oil header. The set at approximately 15 pounds. Fuel pressure relieved by either of these valves will return to the oil and supply the tank. A dial type of gauge located on the engine control panel indicates the fuel oil pressure in the header and normally shows above the 15 pounds of the engine idling. Each cylinder of the diesel engine is provided with the 2 individual dual-function injection pumps connected with the high-pressure piping and the 2 individual injectors on each side of the cylinder. A cam on the camshaft that operates the fuel injection pump at the proper time to deliver the fuel of the injector. The stroke of the fuel injection pumps is constant at all times. The amount of fuel injected at each stroke is controlled by the engine governor, which varies with the effect of the stroke of the fuel injection pump. The emergency fuel cutoff level is located under the unit of the left side of the suction line with the fuel supply tank. It may be closed by pulling any one of the several poles on the unit located as follows: 2, one on each of the side of the outside just ahead of the side of the skirting, 1 on operating cab of the A units near the floor behind the engine man's position on the right side of the wall, B units on units opposite main generator. Your electrical power system main generator, similar to described in Section 5 of the Class AP3. Auxiliary generators similar to those described in Section 5 Class AP3, except for the fan blower generator furnishes power to the operate with the tube-driven motor, traction motor blowers, also the two motor-driven radiator cooling fans. Control stand, similar to described in Section 5 Class AP3, except that the transition takes place automatically with both increasing and decreasing speed at following points: 1, 2 at 17 miles an hour, 2, 3 at 22 miles an hour, 3 and 4 at 43 miles an hour. Dynamic braking, when moved to the left, is in opposition to the transition lever controls the dynamic brake. Reverser, similar to described in Section 5 Class AP3. Traction motors, one traction motor drives the leading axle, one of the trailing axles, each of the truck through spurs with the gears at 17 to 70 ratio of the true traction motors at each of the truck are air cooled by separate motor driven blowers on one over each truck. The 4 traction motors on the unit are connected with the series parallel with the starting low speed and parallel 22 miles an hour automatic transition, unless restricted by the position of the transition lever. Field shunting is provided with to take place in the serial's parallel is 17 miles an hour, and the parallel 43 miles an hour, unless restricted to the position of the transition lever. The contractor compartment. The contractor compartment on each of the units mounted the generator end of the engine room. The compartment contained the apparatus for the main auxiliary power control. There are no fuses in the locomotive electrical circuit. The thermal circuit breakers perform their function except for one 300 ampere fan with blower generator fuse. The following are in the contactors compartment. The main power contactors, same as Section 5 Class AP3. Field shunt contactors marked M1, M2, M3, M4 connect the field shunting resistors across the traction motor field windings and shunt fielding operation. Verse, same as the Section 5 Class AP3. Engine starting contactors, same as Section 5 Class AP3. Generator field contactors, same as Section 5 Class AP3. Fuel pump contactor marked FP for the close for the fuel pump, switch close for the engine control panel, fuel pump circuit breaker close for the engine position, furnished with the battery power to the operator with the motor alternating pump set. The battery contactor, Section 5 Class AP3. Reverse current relay, same as Section 5 Class AP3. Voltage regulator, same as Section 5 Class AP3. Braking contactors marked BC1, BC2. Connecting brake resistors, also traction motor armature of the dynamic braking. Braking switch marked the SW control of the braking relay with connects the traction motor circuit with the dynamic braking with the transition lever is off the B braking position. Radiator fan contactors marked W1, W2, and W3 connected radiator fans, the fan blower, the generator, and either series of barrel connectors under the control of the fan control switches to shutter servo motors. Transition speed relays marked CR1, LS1, 1-2 transition, CR2, LS2, 2-3 position, CR3, LS3, 3-4 transition, associated rectifiers, capacitor, reactors, resistors. Relay panel with the glass cover contains the sequence relays marked AF, V, and CF, the current limited adjusted resistors. Exciter field relay marked EF with close when the throttle lever notches 1 to 8, and inclusive also during the dynamic braking. Ground relay marked GR drops engines in the idle power with the circuit ground around the manual reset button with sealed hand operated knife cut out switches separately mounted in the contractor compartment. Transfer relay marks the T-ray closed during the transition to the end of the operating parallel connection of the motor and closed for the operating with one motor cut out during dynamic braking. Wheel slip relays marked WS1, WS2 compared with voltage 2 and 3 and 1 and 4 the traction motor armature respectively if speed thus voltage F the different operative alarm buzzers light and reduced load on main generator. Time D relay and delay relay marked TDR. Braking relays marked BR1, BR2 closer than the transition lever they off the B position and the reverse lever is forward position of the head-up dynamic braking circuits. Brake warning relay marked BWR operates the warning light with the dynamic brake application exceeding the motor capacity of the various capacitive rectifier resistors. Excitation panel contains the static regulator with the excitation control with the main generator consists of the transformer, rectifiers, reactors, and resistors. Motor cutout switch mainly operated with the cut out any one of the 4 traction motors in the case of the grounds or for other reasons. Miscellaneous and contractor compartment load ammeter shunt number 1 motor circuit that shunts generator output for the test purposes, generator outfield current for the test purposes, number 4 motor current for the test purposes, test connection box, excitation, stabilization, capacity panel, the various resistors, fan blowers, generator fuses, the 300 amperes control air pressure gauges, compartment panel. The panel is mounted at the front of the contractor compartment that contains the following: compartment light switch, engine room light switch, and 2 the radiator fan speeds control switch, battery charge and indicator, thermal overload circuit breakers, 1 15 ampere lighting, 1 15 ampere auxiliary generated voltage regulator, 100 150 ampere A unit control positive, 100 ampere B unit control positive, 150 ampere A unit control negative, 100 ampere B unit control negative, 200 ampere auxiliary generator. The switch panel is located on the right azimuth side of the contractor compartment. Contains the step light switch A units only, engine room azimuth light switch A unit, thermal overload circuit breakers. 125 ampere to govern all the units that comply with the complete through the fuel pump. The contact with the circuit with the governor with the battery. Contact with the fan blower with the generator, fuel fan motor with the control of the engine start the contactors. 115 ampere the fuel pump B units only with the complete control of the fuel pump contact when operating from the holster position. Engine control stand with the following switches of the circuit breaker of the rheostat control of the indicating lights are mounted with the engine man's post. Headlight circuit breaker, 15 amperes control circuit breaker, 25 amperes complete multiple unit control with the throttle control, engine start stop circuit breakers, each for the unit alarm bells, lights, and safety controls. Cab signal circuit breaker, 15 amperes complete circuit with the cab signals. Fuel pump circuit, 15 amperes complete the multiple unit control through the fuel pump contactor on each for the unit motor alternator pump sets. Engine stop button, emergency stop for all the engines. Order light switch, headlight bright and dim switch, generator field switch completes multiple unit control through the throttle transition lever circuit to the reversers, circuit field relays and field shunt controls. Gauge light rheostat switch, cab heater rheostat switch, defroster rheostat switch, attendant call button. It indicates lights. Engine red, low lube oil pressure yellow, wheel slip white, dynamic brake overload white. Fire warning blue. Fireman's position. The following switches of the rheostat controls are mounted on the fireman's position. Hood light switch, classification marker light switch, the number of the light switch, cab heater rheostat and switch, defroster rheostat and switch. Nose of the A units, overspeed with the relay cabinet. Overspeed relay marked with the LOS, operating with the at 78 miles an hour. Safety control relay marked DMR. Heat defroster circuit breaker, 15 amperes. Fire alarm circuit breaker, 15 amperes. Panel left at the rear of the engine room. The cab signal MG main generator set with circuit breakers. The 250 amperes A units only. Heat circuit breakers. 215 amperes start button for the standby heater. One standby heater control box. Your engine control panel. These panels located at the right side of the wall, and the units near the diesel engine contains the following indicator for the control: engine speed indicator for lubrication, oil pressure for the fuel, oil pressure gauge for the indicating lights of the ground relay, trip lube white, lube oil pressure yellow, hot engine red. Engine control isolation switch, the 6-position dial switch with the crank stop, the isolating limiting maximum speed of the diesel engine, position marked off idle 2, 4, 6, 5. Position marked off idle 2, 4, and 6 and run. The start position is obtained with the turning the switch knob from the off and idle position with the pulling out of the switch knob. Full pump switch, the starting lamp stopping the motor alternative which drive the fuel train for the governing oil pump. The main battery switch, manually operated switch with the separately mounted with the right azimuth with the air compression for the isolating battery. Following apparatus also located with the engine control panel, the engine speed sequencing relays marked AVS, BVS, CVS, DVS, engine stop relay marked ESR, safety relay marked SAR, signal relay SR, engine temperature relay marked ETS, operated with the closing either engine at water temperature with the switch and lube oil temperature switch, water temperature switch WTS, governor oil pressure switch EOP, oil temperature switch OTS, and miscellaneous resistor rectifier and capacitors. Load control, same in the Section 5 of the Class AP3, except for the 400 cycle alternator as part of the motor alternating pump set located on the front of the on the floor of the front end of the diesel. Pneumatic control switch and the safety control relay, same in the Section 5 of the Class AP3, except for the pneumatic control switch is marked PCS, and the dead man relay is designated as a safety control relay, but is marked DMR. Alright, your dynamic braking. Dynamic braking grids located above the right eyes of each of the unit, and the units are covered with the direct current of the motor-driven blowers. The motor-driven blowers receive the power through the connections across the portion of the grids. Compressed air system, diesel engine, each of the unit locomotive drive the direct current connected to two-stage 3-cylinder air compressor. The compressor has its own oil pump pressure lubricating system. The intercooler between the two stages has two 50-pound safety valves. Main reserve pressure is controlled by the electrically actuated governor set cut in at 125 pounds of pressure to cut out at 140 pounds of pressure. Main reserve is protected against the express procedure of the pressure by 165 pound safety valve. The discharge pipe from the air compressor at 150 pound safety valve located in the pipe with the adjacent with the main reserve. The drains are located intercooler filter on each of the main reserve by means of the condensation may be drained with the system. The air supply with the control reserve from the strainer of the check of the reducing valve set at 70 pounds. The control air pressure gauge is located with the contractor compartment. The control air is used to operate the reverse braking switch and main power contact. The main reserve pressure is used for the operation with the air brake system, horn, bells, sounder, and windshield wipers. Alright, your air brake system. The class locomotive uses the Type 24RL air brake equipment with the K2A rotary valve with the A units. Each of the two trucks under each of the units is equipped with a 6-barrel brake cylinder. The two-sided vented out cut cocks with each of which the cutout release all the brake cylinders on the truck, and they are located on the right side of each of the unit. Locomotive operation, inspection preparation for the service. After the locomotive has been properly inspected, the contractor compartment with panels, all of the units see the control negative, the control positive, the governor, auxiliary generator, the voltage regulator, the auxiliary generator, circuit breakers are closed. See the radiator fan speed, the control switch is proper position, at engine position, control unit, see the throttle levers in idle position, see the transition levers in off position, see the reverse levers in off position, flow of the control and fuel pump, circuit breakers at the engine position, the trailing cab, see the throttle levers in idle position, see the transfer levels in off position, see the reverse levers removed. See the control and fuel pump, circuit breakers, and generator field switcher are open at each of the diesel engine control panel. After seeing the main battery switches closed, to close the fuel pump switch, fuel oil pressure gauge should show at least 15 pounds of pressure before the engine is started. Place the engine control isolation switch to its idle position, and place the engine alarm should sound with low lube oil pressure should light. Wait 10 seconds for the engine governor to reset. Pull out on the engine control isolation switch knob to the start position to hold the units into engine fires. Lubricating oil pressure gauge shows the pressure. Alarm stops and low lube oil pressure lights goes out. Rotate the isolation switch to the run position, pausing the several seconds at intermediate positions. Check the proper lubrication oil pressure obtains at the compartment control panel on each of the unit. Check the charge indicator to see that it indicates the charge through the battery, moving the locomotive with the road operation. To move the locomotive, close the generator field switch. Place the foot on the dead man pedal and release the air brakes. Place the reverse level in forward reverse position as required. Place the transition lever in the position desired. Due to the mechanical interlocking, the reverse lever can be moved only the transition lever in the off or number 1 position, so that for shifting movements of the transition lever should be not be advanced beyond the number 1 position. For normal road operation, transition lever should be placed in number 4 position, thus permitting full application for the transition to occur. Move throttle is the throttle lever the position recorded to start the train, pausing to each notch position. The starting of the heavy train with care must be exercised to properly control slack action by 4 acceleration. To apply a dynamic brake, move the throttle to the lever to the idle position, select the reverse lever in the forward position, and place the transition lever in the off position. Move the transition lever into the B position, advance the lever into giving the brake power required using the care of the properly controlled slack action. Using load ammeter. The load ammeter is divided into 3 colored sections on the outer load scale span. Red at the high current at the end of the scale, yellow at the left end of the right, and exceeding up to 1,180 amperes. White left to yellow, extending up to 1,050 amperes. When accelerating the train, standing start with low speed, the point of load amperes may swing into the red zone, but must return to the left as speed increases. When throttle lever to 8 notch, the maximum continuous permissible amperes is 1,500, as indicated by the end of the white zone. Operating in the red zone indicates the heavy overload used for the starting accelerating of the train should be limited to approximately 4 minutes. Operating in the yellow zone is permissible for consecutive accumulated time not exceeding 90 minutes. The inner braking scale of the load ammeter is divided into the white and red scale of the section during dynamic braking. Movement of the pointer's red scale indicates the excessive dynamic braking being used in the brake light warning light limit. Operation without load ammeter. With the throttle lever the 8 notch to the max position of the minimum continuous speed of 15.5 miles an hour. Operation speed with 15.5 miles an hour below is permissible under the following limitations. With the lever in the 8th notch position, 12 miles an hour, 90 minutes, 8 miles an hour, 4 minutes. Alright, isolation isolating a diesel engine. If necessary to isolate the diesel engine, place the isolation switch in idle. If the diesel engine is running for the idle speed, due to the throttle being open, the moving isolation switch will run to the idle position, pausing the intermediate position until the diesel engine speed level is off. Putting a diesel online. If necessary to put the diesel online with the moving insulation switch to the run position, pausing several seconds into the intermediate position. 3-volt throttle is open, pausing each position until the diesel engine speed level is off. Before the moving of the next position, diesel engine speed may be limited regardless of the throttle lever position by having the isolation switch of one of the intermediate position that is switched to the number 2 position. Diesel engine will not run faster than the speed corresponding to the second notch position of the throttle lever even though the throttle lever is moved to the higher notch position. Isolation switches must be not moved from idle to a running position while dynamic braking is in use. Cutting out the fuel injection pumps. Each fuel injection pump may be cut out individually by disengaging the fuel control rod plunger from the control rack, adjusting collar the fuel injection pump. To cut out the complete cylinder of the fuel injection pump, then each side must be cut out. If cutting out the injection pumps causes the excessive vibration, the engine should be shut down. Emergency engine stop. Stopping all the diesel engine in emergency accomplished by the pushing of the emergency stop push button on the control stand. The operation of the emergency engine stop depends on the control circuit breaker of the control stand at the beginning of the closed position. After stopping the engine in the manner of the engine control isolation switch on all units must be moved on the off position before any of the engine can be started with the control circuit breaker in the leading unit. Units may be opened momentarily before the engines are started. Ground relay operation. The ground relay trips alarms will sound indicator light on the individual involved with the light. The diesel engine speed will reduce the power will be removed from the traction motor on the unit. If the ground relay fails to remain, the reset the traction motor cutout switch located with the contractor compartment may be operated with the cutting out of one of the traction motor. Remove the ground fault. The diesel engine may continue to operate within the motor cutout. Low lube oil pressure warning. If lubricating oil pressure drops to 5 pounds, the alarm will sound indicating lights with the light diesel engine on. The units involved will shut down. Checking lubricating oil level within crankcase of the diesel engine. Examine the external piping of the lubricating oil system for the leaks before restoring the diesel engine to service. Engine warning indication: high cooling water temperature, high lubricating oil temperature will cover the operating of the high engine warning. An alarm will sound indicating levels will light and load of the diesel engine involved will reduce to 25%. See that the cooling system contains sufficient water. The fans are operating and the shutters are open, and check the radiator for the fan speed control switch in fast position. If necessary, position the shutter manually. If the shutters are open, the fans are not running, check the 300 ampere fan with the blower generator fused in the control compartment. No, when attempting to start a diesel engine, if no fuel oil pressure is obtained, see if the fuel transfer pump is running. If not, check with the following circuit breakers. Open the compartment command control panel with control positive, control negative. Open the engine control stand, fuel pump. The fuel transfer pump is running. Check the fuel supply. Emergency fuel cutoff valve. The fuel oil section line to the pump fuel for the leaks. If the diesel engine does not rotate with the isolation switch knob is pulled to the start position, check the control circuit breaker of the engine control stand with the governor circuit breakers on the switch panel with the checks and start contactors GS1 and GS2. If the diesel engine rotates but does not fire, observe the fuel drag for the injection pump to move out, and if not, release the isolation switch to move it into the off position. Check the governor oil supply overspeed stop. Place an isolation switch in idle position. Wait about 10 seconds before the governor to reset. Then pull the isolation switch to start position. If the locomotive fails to move the diesel engine running with the throttle open, the following checks should be made. Set the reverse level in the proper position. Set the brakes are released. See that the brakes are released. See the transition lever is in running position. See the generator fuel switch on the control stand is closed. See the isolation switches are in the running position. Check the control reservoir air pressure. If the locomotive moves but one more several units fails to deliver the power, the following checks should be made. See the isolation switches are in proper position. Check the control reservoir pressure on each of the unit. See the starting contactors are open. Check the circuit breaker with the on compartment control panel. When changing operating end of the fuel pump, circuit the breaker, the control stand end of the beginning of the cutout must be left to the closed until the fuel pump with circuit breaker on this control stand, the end of the beginning of the cut and closed, and all diesel engine will be stopped. Alright, Section 10, Class AF4, General Data, American Locomotive Company, Freight, 4 units.